Hello, YouTube. I hope you're okay. This video, I'm gonna talk about how to train your subconscious mind. Now, online, I see people talk a lot about affirmations and meditations and so on, but I want to try and come at it from a different way. So, I was reading the 48 Laws of Power. So if you haven't read it by Robert Greene, I highly suggest you do. And I came across a quote that I want to share with you. And it says, "The sun can only be appreciated by its absence. The longer the days of rain, the more the sun is craved. But too many hot days and the sun overwhelms. Learn to keep yourself obscure and make people demand your return." And that's a really good way for chosen ones and people like us to uh, retrain our mind and reframe things when bad things happen to us. It's a good way to flip it without all of the fluffy manifestation stuff. And as chosen people, we have to envision ourselves as being the sun. Okay, so suns are givers of light, suns are givers of energy. And in the Gnostic Gospels, they talk about the archons. And if you don't know what the Gnostic Gospels are, they're an ancient group of Christians, and they believe that there are a race of demons who control the material world. And the way that those demons take control over the human race is to siphon their energy and use it for their own power. And they call this looshing, not in the Gnostic Gospels, but just in the spiritual community in general. So it's called looshing. And many people are possessed by this spirit. It's almost like they are vampires. Okay, so deep down, they know that they need people like us, chosen ones, high vibrational individuals, to steal energy from because they don't know how to generate it from within themselves. Okay, and what happens is they latch on to people like us and take our life force energy because they are possessed by this spirit. And it kind of ties in to what Robert Greene said in his book with that quote about the sun. So if you think about the sun, if you live in a hot country, you probably don't like the sun. You probably get tired of it. You probably have to go to work in the hot weather, and it creates a desert. Not much can grow in the sun, and stuff like that. It produces a lot of difficulties because it's so intense. But in countries like the UK, where we don't have a lot of sun, when it does come along, we tend to appreciate it. But it's funny because we have a lot of winter in this country and we sort of get acclimatized to the cold, and we beg and beg for the summer to come. And sometimes the summer does come, and sometimes it's extremely hot. And when it does come, we complain because we're not acclimatized to dealing with that much heat. This country isn't, and our houses isn't built for heat like other countries around the world. So when the sun does come, we often complain about it and we don't appreciate it until it leaves. And the same thing happens in our day-to-day lives and in our personal relationships. Okay, so if you are a natural light giver, a natural giver of energy, and you shine your light on these people or maybe situations, it might be a job, something like that, that drains your energy, what happens is 9.5 times out of 10, these people, they won't appreciate it. And if you look at it from their perspective, it's because they aren't used to it. If they're dark beings, they're not going to be used to the sun, just like a vampire can't handle the sun. So what happens is when you shine your light on to these people, let's just use the example of a person. If you shine your light onto this person, what happens is they go from being a vampire to being like a moon. Let's use a symbology of the sun or the moon. Okay, so you shine your good energy and your positive vibes onto this person, and you elevate them up to the status of being a moon. And the moon also doesn't generate light from within itself. It's a reflection of the sun. And what happens is these moons, these people, they get their ego gets too big, and they think because they're reflecting your light that they can shine without you. And at that point they will start to, after they've drained your energy and they've you know used up all of your emotional resources, they will move into the discard phase, because they will sort of become delusional and think that they don't need you. They think that it's their light that's shining, not yours. And they'll push you away. And when that happens, we automatically go into a state where we don't think that we're enough. We think that we need to overcompensate. We're probably already doing too much for these people, and we think that we need to do more and more, and it just goes unappreciated. And that is one of the biggest reasons that our foundation, our sense of reality falls apart, because it's almost like we're giving so much out to the world and to these people, and it's not being appreciated in return. And I think it's really clever what Robert Greene did with his quote referring to the sun, because if we think about the great saviors of humanity, they are also referred to as the sun. Jesus is the Son of God. And if you look at the different religions from around the world, they also associate their great prophets with the sun. And the detriment, the things that went wrong for these great prophets was, at the time, they were almost too good. So they were so ahead of their time that uh, it's only now that we can look back thousands and thousands of years later and really appreciate Jesus Christ and Prophet Muhammad, peace be with him, and Lord Krishna and everybody else. At the time, they were persecuted, and their greatness was the end of them. And it's because the people at the time, they were not intimidated, but they were sort of deluded, and just a huge lack of gratitude and a huge lack of understanding comes with having a personality like that. And it's not until much time has passed that people usually appreciate the gifts that we have to give. Okay. So when they reject you and they break the spell and they go back into uh, being a vampire, that's usually when they will circle back and try and suck you back into another relationship. Now, one of my most popular videos, The Reincarnation Trap, talks about this symbolically. So these things happen on a grand spiritual level, but the truth is, we could talk about archons, we could talk about demons and reincarnation all day long, but it won't have any purpose unless we can sort of connect those dots and use these highly symbolic stories to improve our everyday lives. Okay, so reprogramming our subconscious mind and becoming a better person and being a powerful soul that's powerful enough to break the spell of reincarnation is all about relationships. Okay, so this reality is all about relationships. So if you have a light giver and a, like a parasitic vampire, they are at the opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, and unfortunately, this is the world of polarity, and polarized personalities are attracted to each other in exactly the same way that magnets are attracted to each other. And and what that looks like is uh, a chosen one, a naturally loving person over here, and a more toxic person over here on the other side, and we are constantly coming together. So whether that be a relationship or your parents or your friend group or a job, okay, the trap for the chosen ones is being too good, and people who are spiritually basically like babies. Okay, and it's almost like a mother and child situation. That's why in the Gnostic Gospels they talk about wisdom and ignorance being represented by Yaldabaoth and Sophia. They can't exist without each other. Okay, so the way to shift that and fix your that's the subconscious cycle that is constantly going on. And the way to break that cycle so that you can make a choice so that you're not attracted to such people unconsciously is all about where you, the symbolic sun, puts your attention. Okay. So if you're constantly putting your attention onto these people that at the end of the day do not appreciate it, all that's going to happen is that time and time again, you're not going to get the results that you want. Okay, so you're not going to get the results that you want in a relationship or at work or with your friends if you're shining too much light onto something that can't handle it. Okay, so if we look at the symbol of the sun doesn't shine 24/7. Well, in some countries it does, but for the most part, in the places where humans can, thrive, the sun doesn't shine 24/7 in one spot. It rises, it shines at 12 o'clock in the day, and then it sets and it lets the moon take over, and then the moon does its thing at night, and then uh, the sun comes back in. Okay, and we also, need to do that. So in this world, we are often told that we're not good enough. Okay, so that dynamic will happen, and we might get dumped by our partner. We might not do well in a job. We might have parents who are putting too much pressure, maybe on you as a young child to achieve at school or university or whatever. And as light beings, we almost need to ignore that, because the chances are that it is not that you are not good enough. People will always say that to us, because uh, they're reflecting their shadow onto us. Okay, so what unconscious people do is when they see someone that triggers them and that has qualities that they don't have, they project out their lack onto whoever's in front of them. Okay, but when that happens, we need to be conscious and confident enough in ourselves to understand that we're not lacking in any way. In fact, the reverse is probably true. The truth is that we are probably doing way too much. We need to be like the sun and take our energy away from the one spot and go and shine on a different area in the world. Okay, and what that looks like is it might mean taking care of yourself, doing all of the self-care things, but it's likely that you need to take all of that creative energy that you're focusing on the wrong person and express it in a way that can help the collective. That's what the light is all about. It's about helping humanity, and in turn that helps the self. But unfortunately, the world has got it wrong. They think that if they only help themselves, then everything will be okay. But that's just a extremely selfish way of looking at it. So I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that I've not missed anything. So yeah, so being of service to others is a really big thing, and uh, that's what we can do as individuals. Okay, but when we look out at the world in the news and what the governments are doing, and we see all of the chaos that's going on, is also really important that we don't put our energy, because energy is light, onto those subjects. So that doesn't mean that we need to be ignorant, but it's almost like we need to, I don't want to say delude, but shift our perspective and rewire how we think about things. So the news is always going to be the news, and it's always going to paint everything as terrible. The politicians are always going to be politicians, and they are always going to make terrible decisions. Okay. And at the moment, there's not much we can do about that. Hopefully one day, but not right now. But the good thing is that these politicians and these corrupt people are doing all these things and making all of these decisions, but it isn't going unnoticed. Okay, so we need to really focus on the fact that at least nothing is going unnoticed. So I personally would be extremely worried if these people who are in charge were doing what they were doing and there was no sort of reaction or backlash online or in person. But that's fortunately not the case. So these people, they're doing what they're doing, but people are kicking off about it. Okay, especially in a country like the UK, where everyone is, quite, has good manners and all of that stuff. It takes a lot for us to sort of get our backs up in this country, and people are standing up to to these people in authority, and that's a good sign. It means that we are collectively, we're having a spiritual awakening, even though it seems extremely slow, probably in comparison to where you are right now. The collective is awakening. Okay, if they were doing all of these things and there was no reaction at all, and we were just blindly going on with what they tell us to do, like they tried to with that thing that happened in 2020, then I would be extremely worried. Okay, because we will wake up one day and it will be George Orwell's 1984, and we don't want that. Okay, so that's how we deal with retraining our subconscious mind. Okay, it's all about who and what we put our attention on. Okay, so we don't put it on the news, and we don't put it on the corrupt politicians unless it's to educate ourselves about resisting these people. And even when it comes to the content that I put up, I had to take a little break from it because all of the escaping the matrix stuff and all of that is it's important knowledge to know, but if we get caught up in it, then that's another trap of the matrix. Okay, and another trap of the matrix is falling into that cycle of putting our powerful attention onto the people who don't deserve it, sorry. So what the simple thing we can do is simply take our attention away from anything that doesn't appreciate it. And that is the best way to retrain your unconscious mind and put it towards yourself. Okay, because you're always going to appreciate looking after yourself as much as you can. I know we have responsibilities and jobs and so on. And if you feel the desire to, make sure you can also start to take your energy and use it creatively and create something that will help all of us. So that is the easiest way to retrain your subconscious mind. So I don't think I've missed anything out there on my list. I don't want to make it too long. I don't want to give you a 3-hour lecture on how to meditate or anything like that. There's loads of content out there that will tell you how to do that. But the most simplest to the point way of doing that is to simply shift your attention onto who and what appreciates you. So I hope that was helpful to some of you. And I'm going to answer some of the questions that I've seen in the comments this week. So question number 1 is, what happens to those of us who become demon possessed? Someone asked. Well, a lot of things. That's a difficult question because there are many different levels of demon possession. Okay, so everyone who comes here is unfortunately affected by demons. Okay, that is the nature of this place. This is a place of goodness. A lot of good things happen here, but it's also a place of extreme darkness. Okay, so if you're spiritually strong, what happens is that your intuition will kick in. You will come into contact with a demon. They will probably be really attracted to you because you are an attractive. You're like a beacon of light in a dark, shadowy room. You will get a lot of attention, but you will resist the urge to follow the pack and become one of them. Okay, so you might steer away from a finance job. Okay, that is a lot of that energy is in that sector, or the corporate sector. I won't say finance, the corporate sector, because demons or narcissists or cluster B people, however you want to say it, they are extremely skilled capitalists. Okay, so if you don't do well at work, that's probably a good sign in the greater scheme of things, and you'll be a bit of a black sheep, but you'll own it. Okay, so that's one level of coming into contact with demons. The people who fall into darkness, it's usually because of something that happened in childhood, and they probably have been through a lot of trauma, and they become dark because that's the only way they know how to survive. Okay, so if you look at the scale of consciousness that I talk about in basically every video, all of the lower emotions have to do with survival. Okay, but what happens is that people get stuck in the lower emotions because they've had to generate a lot of them to survive. Okay, but to evolve spiritually, we have to let go of those low level emotions, because we only need them in very small amounts so that we can allow in the more positive emotions or frequencies. Okay, but if a person has had to generate a lot of negativity to survive, what happens is that they have usually forgotten that they have forgotten how to generate the high vibrational frequencies. Okay, people who haven't been through all of, too much trauma have a hard time of generating high vibrational frequencies. It's a very difficult thing to do on this earth. Okay, and that's where the cycle uh, comes in. You have a low vibrational dark being who deep down wants to become a light being, and you try to come in and help them and force them to wake up and elevate. That's one of the traps that the devil pulls on us, to try and come down here to save other people. And while that's a very noble thing, it's next to impossible. Someone can only save themselves, because it goes against their free will for someone else to swoop in and try and save them. Okay, so that's what happens to people who become possessed by demons. Okay, so some of them, they find the strength to to switch it around, but unfortunately a lot of people get sucked into the negativity of this place, and it's got them. And that's how this level of reality is able to exist. It's got a lot of souls trapped in here who have got no vision of anything else. Okay, but there's always hope. There's always hope for them. That's why I create channels like this. Maybe one day someone who's having a hard time will stumble across it and be inspired to come out. I don't know if I've answered this question in another live, but someone said, is it safe to do shadow work because shadow work is associated with the devil? I think I was talking about the soul trap. And shadow work is the only thing that will get us out of here. Okay, so it is extremely, extremely important to do shadow work. So those people who are possessed by demons are possessed because they won't do the work, the shadow work. Okay, so there are two different paths that I'm not a doctor, by the way. There are two different paths that shadow work can take. So if you are a negative, not a negative person, someone who is extremely selfish, extremely narcissistic on that end of the spectrum, what they need to do is they need to learn to embrace their higher emotions, because like I said, they're stuck in survival mode. They're stuck in the base frequencies, which when you strip it back is not that much different to living like an animal. Okay, so it's not a good, no hate to anyone that's going through a hard time. I've been there, trust me, but it's not a good place to be. Okay, but if you find yourself in that place and you know that you're a negative person, what you need to do is you need to learn about love. You need to learn about being honest, having high morals, being truthful, and expressing your creativity, and being honest with yourself, and things like that. Okay. My guess is, if you are watching this video, that is not you, okay? Because the thing about those people is they have such a strong shadow uh, that they don't want to deal with it, because it's become so ugly, and the shadow is a part of the self, and the shadow has an extremely massive ego, and the ego doesn't want to accept that there's anything wrong with it. It wants to delude itself that it's perfect and that it doesn't need improving. Okay, people like us, we usually have a little bit more humility, and we have a much stronger chance of healing and leveling up, not just healing, but living a better life, so that we don't repeat the same patterns again and again and again. Okay, so our shadow is, we look at these people who are, let's just call them narcissists for simplicity, and we view everything they do as negative. Okay, but the truth is, they usually have a good job. They're probably miserable in it, but they probably have a good job that makes a lot of money, or they have a big group of friends. They might not be authentic or whatever, but they might be popular. They might have a partner. So how many times have you seen the bad guy or the bad girl have the greatest girlfriends or boyfriends, no matter how much money they may or not have, or whatever? It's because there's an attraction there. They have confidence, even though it might be pseudo confidence. So they have a lot of things that make them attractive. Okay, so we might, going back to what I said at the beginning about the sun and the moon. Okay, we might not like, people might not like the darkness, but there comes a point in the night where we need to go to sleep. Okay, so these people who have these opposite traits to us, they're usually quite negative, but they're trying to communicate something to us. Okay, so if we keep incarnating into this place, it's because there's a dynamic between the empath and the narcissist. Okay, once the empath starts to learn something from the narcissist, that's when they start to get somewhere. Okay, so maybe we can. Hey Galaxy Ree, hey, hope you're okay. Thanks for the likes. So hopefully, I've missed my train of thought. Yeah, so we can learn something from the narcissist. So something that spiritual people struggle with is that we are extremely loving and whatnot, but we don't have a lot, or sometimes we struggle with money. It took me a long time to get my bills sorted out, just being honest with you. That comes along with struggling in work, because we don't really care about this place's weird financial system and their work hierarchies and stuff like that deep down. Okay, we probably struggle with relationships, okay, because we struggle with our confidence. Okay, because if you are a person who naturally shines, what all of these dark beings do is they project their own confidence onto us, and we mistakenly absorb it. Okay, so all of these things that the narcissists have in abundance, usually they usually have too much confidence to the point where they're delusional. We are trying to generate some of that. Okay, so just like they are looking at us because they can't generate love from within themselves, and we usually have it in abundance. In a way, we're looking at them, and we need to learn how to generate stability within ourselves. Okay, so because they usually have it in abundance. Okay, so we need to learn boundaries. We need to learn how to be self-confident. We need to learn how to stand up for ourselves. Okay, we need to take care of ourselves and stop taking care of everybody else. Okay, so shadow work is extremely important, and once we become really clear in what we want in this life, and we avoid falling into the relationship trap of being with a toxic person, when our time comes and we move on to the next life, we will be very clear in where we want to go, which is probably not another life of suffering, because we would have actually learned from our lessons, what the new age people are preaching about non-stop. Okay, and we won't fall into the larger reincarnation cycle. Okay, because everything that happens on the grand cosmic scale happens on a very ordinary, very day-to-day boring scale in our everyday lives. Okay, so it's really important that we don't fall into the trap of being scared of anything. Okay, including being scared of the devil and evil people. That's another trap. Okay, we need to be confident and stand up to them, and to do that we need to learn a thing or two from them. Okay, that's just the reality of it. So please don't be scared of doing shadow work. All of these spiritual terms and whatnot, they're just different ways of learning about ourselves. Someone said, I heard that if you hesitate a little bit while getting reincarnated, is that true? No, it's not about hesitation. It's the same thing. So I can tell there's the same type of people are attracted to my videos. It's about confidence. Okay, so just like you need to have enough confidence and enough common sense and wisdom to avoid a toxic person. That only comes with time and experience and educating yourself. Okay, so if you do enough of that and Mr. or Mrs. Toxic comes along, you're going to be like, no thanks. Okay, but maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or whatever, before you looked into stuff like this, maybe years and years ago, before the internet exists and there wasn't much books on these subjects, okay, maybe you would have fallen into that trap. Okay, and you would have to put up with a lifetime of being in a relationship or being in a string of relationships with toxic people. Okay, that's a really boring, everyday, but relatable version of this reincarnation cycle. Okay, so if you can get it here, which is the most difficult place to get it because so much information is suppressed from here, then when you move on into higher planes of existence where you're more aware, you're more switched on, and you'll have access to all of the knowledge that you learn while in this lifetime, then you will definitely be able to avoid these archons as we move on to the next life. So it's all about taking the fear out of making these decisions, and stop looking to these people in authority as if they've got more power over you than you do yourself, because no one has more power over you. Okay, you are in control of your spirit. No archon, no toxic man, toxic woman, unless you make the decision to be ignorant and to fall into that trap again. And that's it. Okay, so that's all of the questions that I've seen under my comments, unless any of you've got any questions that you want to answer. I've also got a new website. If any of you guys are interested, you can sign up to my emails. I will send you a lot of free knowledge for free for my most loyal subscribers. I promise I will not try to sell you a course or ask for your card details or personal details in any way except for your email to sign up. So I will leave that in the comment section. Okay, has anyone got any questions that they want me to answer? Quite quiet tonight. I usually have a pretty lively chat box, okay, but it is a Saturday, so I'm sure most people are busy. So I'm gonna leave it there. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you think of any other ideas, leave it in the comment section and I will pick it up and go over them in my live stream next week, or if there are any subjects that you want me to talk on, leave them below as well. And yeah, sign up to my emails, guys. I promise you won't regret it. Okay, I hope you have an amazing night. Oh, what will my next live be about? I haven't decided yet. I usually get ideas for my lives in the middle of the night, and I usually tell myself that's because someone out there needs to hear what I have to say. Yeah, but I haven't got any ideas yet. I'm thinking maybe decoding some of the more complicated Bible stories. A lot of people seem to love the Bible because it's something that we can all relate to. But thank you, Nat. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and yeah, I'll be back soon. And if you've got any questions, I'm always reading your comments. So yeah, thank you so much for supporting me, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye guys, take care.